Hey everyone, Temporal here, and today we are going to be reviewing ChoiHyoBin's DVA on Numbani. If you guys are enjoying this type of content, please do like and subscribe, as that tells me you're enjoying it and helps me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join the Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, all that good stuff. So today we'll be reviewing this. We'll be reviewing this from a professional coach's point of view, as if we were going through the tape, figuring out, hey, how can we make this player better? What sort of short list of things can we come up for them to work on to improve their play? So here we go. Pushing out for your scouting as D.Va, nothing too wild there. It's fine, taking your angle to control it. This does a couple things. You'll notice they immediately look back here, and that's so that they can cover, hey, is any of my team in danger? They can cover the rotation. You get a better angle for protecting that by having your DM across like this than you would sort of trying to bust them across from here. And, you know, their view wasn't over here. They weren't super worried about, like, oh, getting hooked by a hog or anything. They didn't even check over here, which really in this meta, and based on what they saw here, not a big deal. The higher priority was protecting the team over here. Little less a fan of that. Again, we're just doing some scouting information, but if we really think about, hey, what are we doing scouting information wise? Where have we set up Smurf? No, that's going to be on time. So that was scouting information. You'll notice didn't spend a ton of health there, didn't spend a ton of resource there. So just to reiterate here, we're going here. We have full DM, we have full health. We do this, we spend 100 health, and 1 tick of DM and not more than 1 tick of DM that wasn't overheld to get this information. And we even got micro missiles in response, which that's a mistake. We should not be getting micro missiles from Fury here. Fury must have thought, like I did for a moment, that the staging was still further out for Shock, and it's not. Shock is ready to pull the trigger on this in about the next second or two here, about 1.5, 2 seconds. And Fury does not want to be using micro missiles if the trigger is going to be pulled that soon. So this was well done by ChoiHyoBin here, and here we go. And now right after those, this is probably going to be go time. Yep, we've got the DM to sort of walk the team in here. It immediately goes on decay, and team pressure should immediately be going on decay as well. Little lost on finding his target there, but that's not a big deal. And now they've taken the space. Did use micro for that, but they've taken the space. They've gotten the high ground control. Finding Winston. Winston's obviously a good target to be on here. Swapping back to decay as soon as the team drops, because have to be locking out decay. D.Va's sort of most interesting things to do in not this composition, but in this sort of mirror matchup are, hey, pretty good, have, you know, the big high spread weapon, nice shotgunny type effect, pretty good at taking out the Winston on the other team from a damage standpoint, so that would be a good place for for D.Va's damage to go. But the other thing that she's going to do is she's going to block out the biggest source of damage, and the place that she can reliably do that is sort of the beginning phase on the opposing Reaper there. Try to lock out that damage while her team forces out the meaningful cooldowns, be that Wraith, be that Leap, be that Boosters, be that Fade, whatever. So generally want to try to lock down this Reaper as much as possible to not let them just chunk, because when these two comps meet, the Reapers just chunk, except for the fact that the D.Vas are shutting them down. Playing that a little passive, backing off to just get a wide angle DM. Sure, that's not amazing. You don't really need to be here on Fury. You don't have a better target, but that's because you haven't given yourself a better target. Okay. There you go. You're trying to find a better target. And it is that Winston. And we can see constantly going after that Winston when it comes to offensive potential. With that, did you lose track of the Reaper? You did. So you lost track of decay here, and that's a problem. And as soon as you lose track of decay, you didn't really have DM. Let's go back and take a look here. Here you are, you don't have DM. Yeah, you didn't have DM, so that's when you decided to go ahead and all in boosters and micro on mag here, which, that does make some degree of sense. We go, hey, we don't have anything to spend to lock down decay anymore. We did as much as we could. Our team didn't get value getting the initiation or getting work done while we had DM left to block out decay. And now it's going to be a case of let's try to take down mag. Because, our next best thing after locking down the Reaper is the damage, the high damage that we can put into Winston compared to other targets. Don't necessarily love the DM over here, though. Like, there was a tick of DM over here, and that's not doing amazing things for you. The Reaper is over here, and this DM is mostly for this Reaper in these situations. Yes, you can eat stickies, but it's mostly for this Reaper. So, that's a bit of a mistake. Again, that's a little panicky with the DM. What are you actually blocking with this? You can't block the Coalescence. You can block Decay, sure. Let's go here. Sure. As soon as we see the flick of the DM, that gets Wraith. Great. Yeah, you're tracking Decay reasonably with that. Okay. What are you doing? We're shooting the ground with DM up? Like, you gotta... You're gonna have to resell me on this. So you have a tick of DM. What for? I don't care. There's nothing that the Lucio can do to you that I care about. The worst thing Lucio can do is boop you. So what? So what? And now we're using it again. We're using our DM on the way out here. So this isn't great DM use to re-enter the fight. This is a little bit of over-respect for the Lucio. It's not like Lucio does no damage and eating those shots has zero value. But again, it is so much more important to be having DM available for decay. And it's not like we're just sitting on full DM here and have DM to spare. It's two ticks that we've now used on a Lucio that was just bothering us. Not a Lucio that was about to finish off Violet or about to finish off Striker or Nero. Just, hey, they're on us when we're at half health. You're on the Reaper, but you don't have any DM now that you're on the Reaper. So you've come over here being like, Reaper's my job. Reaper's your job when you have this. Reaper cannot be your job when you don't have this. You were better the first time when you went over and you went, hey, I'm going to go bother Mag when you didn't have any DM left. At this point, you're just giving Reaper something to gain a ton of life off of. You and your mech, the giant target, your giant crit box. Maybe you were trying to bait him into thinking that you had DM so he wouldn't blossom because you thought your team was going to take him down. But your team's ability to take him down with you in his face and not DMing him is very low. Coming back. Sure. D.Va's a fine target. She was already low and you knew that from your damage scouting there. Falling out of the range, pushing up for the Reaper. It's a little dicey to use micro there. I don't know if your team is called his shift status. Let's take a look at his shift status. Yeah, so he has the shift. It's a little dicey to use micro there, to be perfectly honest. He's not low enough that you expect to burst him down before he's able to shift or anything. Your damage just isn't that high as D.Va. Well, it's high enough, but it's not that bursty, even with micro. That's fine. This is totally fine. You don't actually need to be DMing this because Striker has already Wraithed here, but conceptually the idea of, hey, Decay shooting at something, I better DM it. Drop this DM. Nope, overheld the DM. And it's not a you have to use the DM thing here. Like, we look at this. That's fine. There was a little bit of a flash onto Decay there while I was Wraithed, which isn't great. And then we've got this, which we talked about. We understand it. You've held this DM for plenty long. We are well past using a tick of DM. Nothing is forcing us to keep this DM on anymore. This is well beyond the minimum DM click, which means if you let go of it, it's going to stop. And you're going to have this DM left on your bar. This DM right here. Instead, we drain it to empty. Tuck the corner, yep. Why? Why are we doing that? Why? What are we DMing here? What did you see that you thought was DM worthy? So here we are. Yep, good stuff. Slow this down for you. That's a Winston. Totally fine. Why? What are we DMing? Is it just because Smurf is low? Smurf isn't that low. Like, what do you think you're DMing? A focusing beam? You can't do anything about a focusing beam. You know that the Reaper's off the table. Do you hear stickies? If you don't hear stickies, there's not much that you can DM. Like, yes, you could DM left clicks from Echo, but there's not much to be DMing here. This isn't really a DM situation. Were there stickies? Maybe I'm being too harsh. It's possible. Happens sometimes. No, there were definitely not stickies. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I just saw that at the top there, but that must have been a Lucio orb. What? What? Excuse me? You don't need to just like reactively turn with defense matrix, especially when you don't have full defense matrix, unless there's actually reason to expect something. No one's showing up with a pulse bomb. She's banned. No one is showing up with a pulse bomb, so that's something that we should be aware of. It can be hard to get rid of that habit because when you're playing effectively this comp, tracers are incredibly common, so I understand why that habit might be there, why your brain might be there, but who were you worried about getting pulse bombed? Like, you don't have a friend over here that you'd have been needing a pulse bomb for. Otherwise, you were just turning in case, like, what? Echo was going to show up over here? She can't. Lucio was going to show up over here? He could have probably made it by now, but who cares? Like, this isn't worth something that we'd spend our DM for. Wasteful. We're going to have it back. We have the full, and I don't mind if we do a little DM scouting here. Okay, we hold it. And we see they're circling. Fine. This could have been made better. We see where they're going. We don't have to go on the ground. We can go up here. We can totally go up here and finish our boosters here, waddle the last couple steps, and play from here. You still want high ground off angles if you can take them. Now, the comp that both these teams are playing frequently just says, forget it, we're not going to bother to stage, we're going to skip the staging phase. And the reason that we do that is, everyone can go pretty fast here. Everyone has movement abilities. But the real reason that they do it is that for the most part, this comp's poke is not very good, and Moira isn't very good at sustaining through poke. She can't heal the team if the team spreads out, the team takes angles, the team gets control, the team battles for position. So you can't keep up with them if they do that. So you tend to see the staging phase sort of skipped, which is why the comp plays more like a brawl comp than a dive comp, but you can still go, oh, hey, I'm Diva, I can sit up here. Even if my Winston is here, my Lucio is here, I can sit up here as Diva. I can DM over that, I can shoot people and get them in the head from up here, and boosters is such a low cooldown that I'll be able to drop, use boosters if I have to peel. I'll be able to drop, fight, booster back up, like all these things. Totally worth using booster here to take the high ground. So we decide to prioritize the Winston here. And again, you've sort of got not two jobs, you've got more than two jobs, but I highlighted two of your main jobs, two of the main things you're thinking about as Diva in this matchup, and this was fine. I don't mind this DM usage. Decay's not at a fantastic range, but you're getting Decay plus some other stuff, and it's the first tick. It's the first two ticks now, because that's half your DM, and I'm good with that, but Decay is getting more threatening as time goes on. So this is okay with me. Again, though, think about if we'd been up here and we'd been able to pester them from this range, like what that respectively does If you think about like this from Fury's perspective, Fury then has to pick, do I block you or do I block them? Now Fury's actually going out here because this is better to take a little bit of an angle across, which is good, but you want to be creating that additional pressure on the other team by having that angle, and it's very easy to get as D.Va, and in this case, getting it wouldn't put the team so far away that you couldn't DM to protect your team, that you couldn't drop if you had to DM to protect your team. This would have been a good place to be, and we're just illustrating that. But this is fine. We're buying time effectively for our team to get ahead, to try to put pressure on them, to try to force cooldowns. And we decide that with 3 ticks of our 4 ticks gone for DM, and the fact that we're now locked out because we did switch it off, which puts DM on its cooldown here, even though we have a tick left, we can't immediately reactivate it. Now is going to be a time to go after the monkey and to commit the micro missiles. Now, going after the monkey, that makes sense. That's absolutely correct. When, hey, we can't DM Reaper anyways, we'd like to turn our crit box away from Reaper. Activating micro missiles is a little more, I won't say wrong because it's not wrong. It's a little more, hey, by activating micro missiles here, you're probably signaling that you're going to either stay on monkey long enough that more than your internal cooldown will pass on DM before you put the next tick over Decay, so Decay might have a little more freedom than normal to do work, or you're going to shift yourself back to Decay while micro missiles are still going, which is perfectly fine. It means the monkey's a little less threatened, you didn't have your full micro missiles on him, and you have less burst potential there, and monkey is a vulnerable spot in this comp. He gets burst down by the Reaper, by the D.Va, but putting extra pressure on the Reaper is far from bad. If you can get that Reaper's Wraith out early, he's going to play more defensively. You're going to have a good time. Sure. Okay. I probably wouldn't have gone for this DM. Again, it's an effective range thing. Like, Reaper's range isn't bad, and this does get the DM over the Reaper, which is good, but I'm looking at this and going, unless I'm catching something else useful, and I'm not. If I was catching maybe echo shots, it might be worth it. If I was catching stickies, it would definitely be worth it, but I don't love it at this range. Smurf is weak enough that I'm going to say, yeah, it's fine, but I don't love it at this range. I'd really prefer to go, hey, if I want to protect, I'm going to booster protect and actually put the DM over Smurf, because Fury is also a big threat to Smurf. And this is just not great. We're just blocking Decay. We're really just blocking Decay. We're at max range, and Decay is effective at this range, but not as effective as he could be. This isn't like maximum Reaper blockage or maximum damage blockage for this, what is a little more than our last tick of DM. And now we're continuing. Again, that was more than a tick of DM that got used here. I don't know if you guys saw that, but we'd recovered enough that we had more than a tick of DM available to us. And the full tick of DM is used even though this is focusing beam and this Reaper is reloading, which we don't like. We don't particularly like that. That said, now we have nothing and no micro missiles, so now we get to see where's ChoiHyoBin go. The Echo. I'm going to want to see that again. Sure. Mag is in the back, low health. Smurf primaled out, and we didn't go to, that's a mistake, we didn't go to the super low health Winston to finish that off. Like, I'm glad that we got him, but we didn't go there. We instead went back here on Echo. I'd be totally happy to go with Echo if we were like certain that that was eliminated, but I would have expected us to go to Mag first. I don't really want to fight this. Like, if the whole team is calling Reaper and Reaper's the target, great, but you don't have DM anymore. Yeah, you didn't even have a full tick of DM to use there. This is not really a thing that you can afford to fight. I preferred you on the Echo. Look at how much pressure Decay was not under while you were there. He's under more pressure when you leave. I mean, yes, the Coalescence is, excuse me, I've got my Coalescence is wired here, backwards. Like, you see this? Decay's in no danger. You're right here, and you can't eat his shots, so he can just gain health off of you. Now, he's going to go ahead and teleport instead. And because he's teleporting, that gives some level if he can actually take damage because he's not shooting you. You You've got a tick of DM to play with. Nero's here with you, and you decide you don't actually want this fight. Okay. Sure. There's our self-destruct. Yeah. And that's fine. That's not a self-destruct to get eliminations. That's a self-destruct to get some of the defensive cooldowns out and to remech. So no real issue with that. Why? That's a fair amount of DM to spend. Like, you have a fresh mech, so you have some DM. Don't get me wrong. Oh, did I not hear the Blossom because of the pauses before? I don't think you're actually getting the Blossom out there. Yeah, you're not. This is a little heavy on DM spend. A tick of DM here, sure. Half your DM to get out, or I don't know, let's say 45% of your DM to get out there. That's heavy. Where are we? Why? Why? Why are we using boosters here? If we wanted to use boosters to get up here and then pressure from up here, sure, I guess. But boosters to actually go in from here, you didn't see anything remotely vulnerable. I don't want to shift into this. What do you see that we're making a play on? Like, what do you see that your team is making a hard, heavy play on? Yes, they lost their Moira. Yes, that's a big deal. That doesn't mean that you just int at them. Your team doesn't have the positioning or the tools to do that. That was a weird booster. And the booster to high ground was just fine there. It wasn't like amazing, it was just fine, but it wasn't even a booster to high ground. It was a booster to high ground that like no decision making whatsoever, just immediately went in from there. Didn't stop, didn't like go, I'm boostering through the high ground, and if I don't see something, I'll stop, which would have been fine. It was I'm going up through high ground to change the angle, and I'm immediately going in. On what? On Fury's mech? Fury's mech was fine. Can we please take, again, like, you don't need to go heavy on the staging, you really don't, but you can go take a little bit of control of this. If you hear the Reaper teleport up here, you might drop. If you see the Echo come in here, you'll have to decide what you can do, depending on whether your Echo's with you, that sort of thing. You might drop again. But you can go get control of this. If they're not going to contest it, great, you'll just take it for free, and it's an advantage. Okay. That's a lot to answer the diva. So that's Fury. Shooting at Fury is totally fine. Not quite as good as shooting at Mag, but shooting at Fury is totally fine, and Fury has put themselves in a place to be shot at, so go for it. DM for what? Did you think Nero was in trouble? Yeah, Nero wasn't really in trouble there, but you can use a tick if you're worried. Don't know why you'd use a second tick, though. Like, I don't know why we're using the second half of this. Like, okay, great, cool. This doesn't actually affect decay. This doesn't actually protect your Winston. This is basically you DMing into the back of Fury. The back of Fury doesn't shoot you. These boosters might seem like they're hot. They might seem like they should burn you if you're close to them, but they don't. Okay. Let's take a look. That's fine. You use a little bit of DM to protect that. You switch over to here. Kind of dragged that DM lazily, not really protecting anything. And now you have no DM, so yes, now you can int on the monkey. I mean, you can't actually int, but you can go hard on the monkey. Show up with the full DM. Beautiful. Totally fine. Totally fine. Make sure that you swing just a little to the right to get that. I'm surprised you didn't grab that orb. Good. And you can go after that monkey because the Reaper's off the table. Good job. This is just scouting phase, a little pre-poke. I'm not too worried about spending DM down here because the Reaper's nowhere to be had. The Reaper was nowhere to be had. So let's go back here. We're here. If I overestimated, okay, so Reaper's still about 2 seconds out here, won't have cooldowns. Yeah, or I mean, it doesn't have cooldowns, no, will have cooldowns. Okay, so we're fine. So now we need to go a little more into DM conservation mode. Putting the damage on Fury just because it's there. It's something to do. Fine. Not sure necessarily what we think we're DMing there. Don't really love that DM. Maybe that was for our monkey thinking Decay could shoot at it, but that DM wasn't quite in the right spot for that. That was fine DM. Less good. This isn't amazing. So if you look at this, I know I'm microing this a lot, guys, but you just have to when you're reviewing DM. I'm sorry. I'm not actually sorry. You just have to. So this is how it goes. And you look at this and you go, hey, we're good. I don't really like us committing our boosters here when we do still have DM to go after the monkey when Decay is still out here. Like, Decay is in play. Decay is very close to where our monkey is currently, and we're choosing to go, hey, I'm going to all in on their monkey. Like, while we do good damage to their monkey, we don't fully want to make the monkey our focus until we can't DM. And we both have a tick of DM available and have DM off of its internal cooldown, and our monkey is near their Reaper. So I would really prefer that we prioritize not letting Decay do work over putting pressure on their monkey right now. Or being available to not let Decay do work at the very least, as opposed to, hey, we're doing this. And when we commit boosters like that, now that hurts us a little bit. Now we'll use our DM at least. Right? That was slow. Good turn away. Fine. Why are we DMing their monkey? We don't DM their monkey. We DM our monkey sometimes. We don't DM their monkey. This DM, it's not like that's an Anna where we can eat her heals. No. No. Why? You're going after the monkey. Fine. You're going to take the monkey down. I'm good with it. Like, what are we DMing? Why? Just pump out damage. Your team's fine. Like, your team's fine. Yes, Fury might be shooting, but, like, this isn't a situation where you're playing with your food, you're toying with a baby diva to not let her remech situation, and this isn't, like, really a situation. It's not the end of the world. Like, this is a little bit of diva's choice, I suppose, of do you want to DM the diva to not let her get her ult charged and be sure that your team will take care of her, or do you just want to take care of her? But at this range, you know, when she's just here like this, and it's your last tick of DM, I'd prefer to just put the damage in. Unless you actually see that someone on your team is in trouble, in which case you're going to throw the DM probably over them, which no one on ChoiHyoBin's team is in trouble here. That's okay, though. I'm being overly critical there. Even for an OWL player, I'm being a little overly critical there. Okay. It's fine. Are we going to go scout this time? We can afford to do a little scout with that, like, first 100 HP, that first ticket DM like we were before. We don't have to stack 5 people on the cart. We're Diva. We have a short cooldown on boosters. We can do a little bit of scouting. Little bit of, hey, let me peek over here type stuff. Or peek from up here type stuff. First tick, okay. Again, heavier than your first tick. Like, if this is 25% of your DM, no problem. But I don't like this being closer to 33% of your DM for what are just echo shots. Not stickies, but just echo shots. Okay, DM for decay, no problem. Stayed on him a bit here. And there's actually not a great reason. Like, I know it seems intuitively like, hey, I need to stay on Reaper because Reaper's my job. But here's the thing. This Reaper Wraithed, you can stay on them if you want to finish him. Yeah, that's fine. You need to let go of this DM as soon as you can. Please. Good. You want to finish Decay. Yeah, that's fine. You actually don't really... Yeah. Yeah, I'll live with that. We're pushing in with our beat. We have DM. We're protecting Striker's DM. It's so silly to just watch Reapers spin in both Divas DMs and nothing happen. Hey, okay. There we go. Pushing their Reaper. We have less than a tick of DM. We have micro missiles. They're in Coalescence. Nothing will happen here, but okay. Great. Great. I love being wrong. Okay, first tick we're scouting. Turning our back. And we're on the Reaper. Good. I'm not convinced that that's going to break. So how desperately did you need that fresh mech? You've got no DM left. You've got 130 health. Okay. Oh yeah, never mind. I completely take it back. This is beautiful. You got a 1 mech self-destruct off for remech. That's fantastic. And you got an elimination out of it. Even better. There's a little heavy on the Matrix use. Like, it was sort of a willing the Matrix to be like, no, I want to eat the stickies that already got on me. But that's fine. It's not fine, but we'll deal. You think? Yeah, I guess your team bailed out hard enough that that makes sense. Okay. Here you are. Sure. Yeah, okay. Not sure what you're reading there. That's Violet. That's still Violet. You don't see a Reaper on your Violet. You don't see anything on your Violet. You don't see that your Violet's low health. You're not scouting. What is this? Now you can see, oh hey, there's a pair of Reapers, but honestly, Violet's perfectly healthy, and Violet's not in that much danger at this range. Yes, Reaper range buff, I know, Violet's not in that much danger at this range. Okay, might be a touch early, but not significantly. And you do double check. After you're already in the open, but you double check. It's heavier DM than we like. What was that? Okay. I'm with you. This is more where I'm going like, you know that Decay is over here. You know that Assassin doesn't have duplicate, used it last fight. What is your DM doing over here? Your DM does not protect from Winston. And you know where the Reaper is. You know where the secondary DM thing, like if you can't get Reaper, it's going to be, or if the things that you worry about to eat besides Reaper are going to be, okay, so there's Reaper to worry about, there's a duplicate to worry about, there's stickies to worry about. These are both lower tier. The duplicate is as high tier as Reaper, but usually you don't get there by the time because you're drained. The stickies are a little lower tier but important. The Moira Orb, similar case. You'd be willing to eat them, but it's going to be similar to stickies. And then there's Diva, which is also lower tier. So, like, you know that the Reaper's not there. You know it's not duplicate. You also know that it's not stickies. So, like, what is your DM over there for? Am I missing an orb? It wouldn't be worth it for the Diva. Surely I'm not missing an orb, right? I could be missing an orb. Maybe I was missing an orb. No, your orb's right over there. Okay, that's just not gonna work. So you're here, you know exactly where Reaper is, and you DM this. Nope. Nope. Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, you knew they were coming from that way. You could have played up here. You coulda. It's not like the end of the world that you didn't, but you do have plenty of time to take this and still, be off of cooldown on your shift, or be a second from being off of cooldown on your shift. And it does do some cool things for you. Little bit of, hey, I have the ability to poke them from a different angle. I can still DM over my team. It's not like it's hard for me to press backwards and fall off. You can go, hey, I can do this. And as long as I don't lose more than about 100 health first tick of DM, no problem. I'm happy to be here for what it gets me in terms of them having to solve me first. And if they don't, I shoot them in the head as they walk by. I DM over my team. Like, still happy to do those things. Like, yes, this team, you won't get the sort of sustain that you're used to from your team up here because you have, this support combination. You can't do like serious maintain it. They can push you off a little, all that good stuff, all that not so good stuff rather. But you can still take it in some of these situations. You just have to be sort of cheap to give it up. Mm-hmm. Sure. You're tracking Decay over there. You're going to protect Striker. Okay. And then you immediately swap to Decay with the little bit that you have left. This won't matter. That last tick of DM was questionable, but you're very low health. Sure. You can try. I believe. Okay, fine. You're going to get your one more push. That's a good decision. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's Decay. Honestly, what you'd do in this situation is you just greenlight your whole team to go. You'd say, hey, Decay's here. Decay is gone on his little flank, gone on his little thing. But again, we need to go to the cart. We're happy to go to the cart. We can just sort of all in a go right here and sort of leave him behind. It's not amazing because you use all of your team's movement abilities to do it, which makes them vulnerable. But the person who does the most damage, the person you're most worried about being vulnerable to, would be Decay. Now, we do have this, which makes things a little more threatening because there's a duplicate on the board, but leaving this behind would be a reasonable play. But that's not all ChoiHyoBin's call. So you're going to mirror instead. Not mirror, you're going to answer instead. Sure. And then you leave. try to find the monkey, and ultimately you go for the self-destruct. Mm-hmm. Not sure what that was about. I don't mind you losing your mech again here. I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, you know that's coming in and you're super low health, so you go there. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Pea shooter your way to victory. Nice shot. Good. Oh, good stuff. Okay, good stuff. So now we're going to move on to the defense round here, and that'll be interesting. So far what we've seen, biggest things we've seen for ChoiHyoBin to work on are going to be things surrounding their DM usage. Obviously, we've commented on a lot of micro things about DM usage, but specifically we have some heavy DM usage for that initial burst. You can be sort of easier to use your first quarter of DM than you are your remaining 3 quarters. You sort of get harsher, or it becomes harder to force later parts of DM out of you compared to earlier parts. And it's, I'm pretty light on, hey, if you want to use this for scouting, so be it. If you want to use this to eat a little bit of echo shot, so be it. But we're going, hey, instead of doing this first quarter, we're going, and we're getting like here on some of this stuff. We're getting like here on some of this stuff. And that gets into, hey, that's kind of pricey. That's more expensive for eating an echo shot, for doing a little bit of scouting. So we have some of that that we would definitely want to work on. We also have some stuff where we're just not tracking, or we're not recognizing what the things that actually warrant our DM are quite well enough. And that's not saying that ChoiHyoBin is way off. Obviously, ChoiHyoBin is a very good player, guys, and this is not me picking on this player and being like, oh, you're so terrible at the game or anything, or look how bad they are. No, they are a very good player. Overwatch League, deserve to be there. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just going in here and being critical because this is my job. When you're working with pro players, they generally don't want you to puff them up and tell them about all the things that they're doing fantastic and how great they are. They know that they're very good. They want you to find the stuff that is wrong with them, that they're doing wrong, that they can improve on, so that they can go quickly make those changes to be better. So if I seem too harsh to you and I'm, beating up on your favorite player, but, I don't mean to be like, oh, they're trash. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just doing this how you would do this with a pro to make them better. Okay, so going back to that, the DM use, there's a little bit of like, hey, if you know where the Reaper is, that's going to demand most of your DM. And if you know that the Reaper's over here, there's nothing to protect over, it's very unlikely that you're willing to use DM over here. Or if you see a DM retreating, you're not going to DM the butt of the diva when the Reaper's too far away. So like a little more in this meta, specifically tracking of the Reaper. Like there's a lot of that going on, but we do need more of that still, because DM is coming out for things that don't warrant it. Things that aren't stickies, Moira orbs, potentially a low health teammate that really is about to go down. They're just coming out for what are sort of more generic things. And that sort of would be right in other metas, but in this specific meta, you're really pretty heavily prioritizing that Reaper, duplicates of that Reaper, and then a couple other things you can be like, yeah, I could use DM on that if I see it, like stickies, like orbs, maybe a little bit of diva damage, a little bit of diva micro missiles, like those sort of things. Yes, you can use, but you're really looking to use the lion's share of it on this, or maybe even, some scouting we could put in this category as well. So a little bit better to be done there. So sort of 2 different categories for DM, being a little heavy on our usage in some place and not tracking the Reaper quite enough. And then the second category that I'd get into, or third thing, would be some of this shift usage should be a little more, hey, it's okay to take this high ground. We talked about on first point on 2 different places where it would have been okay to take that high ground, once over sort of the point itself, and once after they'd capped the point. When they'd capped the point, ChoiHyoBin just went right on through without any sort of, well, what are you doing with this? You could have actually stopped on this high ground and realized, hey, there's nothing to go in to get, so let's play from up here type thing. Again, it's not that expensive to take high ground as long as you don't do it in the middle of the battle. As long as you have even 2 to 3 seconds before the battle's actually going to happen, taking nearby, it does have to be nearby, but nearby high ground is pretty effective, because you can still protect your team with it, or very easily drop to protect your team with it, and you apply that angular pressure that is still good. I know this comp doesn't stage the same way a real dive comp was, but those angles are still good for diva, in the right situations, and we're missing a few of those. Okay, let's go back to our gameplay here. Okay.
Initiating. Ready for battle. Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
A giant gorilla! Just like in those old video games!
I get that.
I'm going to own all these noobs!
Mm-hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Sure.
Get with this!
Okay. I'm not sure I wanted you to drop here. Yeah.
Time to raise my APM!
Okay. Your whole team decided to rotate with you. Fine. I'm good with it. This DM is mostly for... This DM is for Decay Plus, so even though it might look like it's being aimed at the monkey, it's for Decay Plus, so no big deal there. And now the damage is on the monkey, no problem. We don't have enough DM to warrant paying attention to Decay, so we'd like to get back on the monkey. Can't actually do that from here without using Shift, which would just be a feat at this point, so I expect that we're going to turn and actually put damage on the D.Va behind us, the secondary target. Or the second best target for D.Va's weapon. Sort of. D.Va U-turned herself out, so. And now we're going to go in. We do have a tick of DM left, so we're going in hard to U-turn. Okay. That's pressure on Decay. That was unfortunate. That was DM on a Decay that was wraithing by. Now all the damage is going to go on Decay because Decay doesn't have Wraith. And now we're swapping to Monkey specifically because we don't want to feed Decay. Because we have no... Well, no, we have plenty of DM. Why are we not on Decay? Let's take a look. Was the positioning just that rough to go in there? At this moment, your DM's a little low, but you'll have a tick of DM by the time you get there. You have your monkey bubble down. The monkey bubble will effectively not be there when you're there. I'm a little surprised, but maybe you hear that FD God is in trouble, and that's what's doing this. That's what's causing you to be here. That's fair. You're trying to protect FD God when he's in particularly bad shape. Doesn't have amp. Okay. Great. Taking the extra fight. You're a little early, and that's going to draw DM out of you. Yeah. And because you're a little early, and that's drawing DM out of you, like, you weren't mega early, but you were a little early there. And now you're at half DM instead of 3/4 DM. Putting the damage on Monkey. Gonna drop that DM. Gonna drop that DM. Held that DM a little long. Oh, you tried, but the Primal's messing with you. That's fine. ChoiHyoBin was trying for the high ground there, I believe, but the Primal was not letting that happen. Okay, we have plenty of DM again. We have plenty of DM again. Why are we playing here? Is it just because it self-destructs like wild? You're here. You're DMing your monkey. I don't care to DM your monkey. Your monkey is okay, and your monkey is fighting a D.Va clone and a monkey. Like, I just don't need that. I really don't. you're not at a health point where you necessarily want to go fight their monkey over there or assassin over there. So become aware of decay. You can't actually go after him, but okay, you cancel that, good. And you do then reacquire decay. Not sure what that last ticket DM was for. Or that one. You have beat. Why are we spending DM? Again, if you had full DM, it's one thing, but you didn't. There's decay, that'll summon DM. That should summon DM. And then you U-turn boost out. Cool. Immediately. Oh, too early. Too early on the micros. Okay. DMing the back of Diva doesn't really help, but sure. And you're going to take your high ground because you can do so very cheaply. You can. You can. Okay, that would have been a tight window to do it, but it was doable. In terms of, like, obviously, ChoiHyoBin could have made it up there, but the question is, do you make it up there and put yourself in a bad spot where you're going to get double-teamed by Assassin and Fury there? And it might have been too tight of a window. It might have been a, nope, I'm going to be 3 seconds out on DM, and I don't want to be, or 3 seconds out on my next boosters, and I don't want to be sitting up there type thing. So that's fine. Cool. Acquired decay. You've got a full mech, but you've got no DM and no micro missile. The fight's gone on a little bit, but like when we really get into it, here's Wraith. Flight's on cooldown. Both of these are out. Yeah, fight is like gone enough, no fade. This is a good bomb. And the element sort of the good bomb are you're looking for your bomb is your bomb going to be it's going to get some of these defensives out that we're then going to be able to brawl on them with our defensives and win? Is it getting me back a bunch of mech life? Is it getting me back a bunch of mech cooldowns, specifically DM, to a lesser extent micro missiles? It can't be getting you back boosters because you want to have boosters to throw it. So of course it's getting you back boosters, but you wanted to have had boosters when you threw it. And this is a pretty good one in terms of what you're accomplishing with those things. We have more health than we usually like, but we check plenty of other boxes. It's in a good place, and our team is relatively ready to follow up. Striker's a little further out of the fight than we'd like, but I think Striker's teleporting in right now, which makes this nope, Striker's just reloading. Okay, so be it. Mm-hmm. Pressuring the Winston at range. Eating the stickies, or trying to eat the stickies, fine. Trying to kite back from the coalescence. First you're on the... So, here we go. First one, decay here. As soon as we realize, hey, we have no DM left, or we're done using our DM, not starting to recover, we're going to swap back to a better target, which is Fury here, because again, we don't want to be fighting decay without DM. We just give him too much health. Now that we have enough back to take a DM, we do that there. You can't DM self-destruct. I know, it's tempting. It's tempting, but it's not happening. Bye-bye.
My ultimate is ready or unleashed. My ultimate is ready to be
Cool. So scouting, your health's still fine. We're actually going in for this? Your team called to go in for this? Okay. I mean, clearly this was a team call, so. Okay. I disagree with the call to go in there, but that's fine. And I don't wildly disagree with the call.
Coalescence is charging.
It's fine, team is ready. You're DMing most of their team while making sure to get decay. You then immediately pivot over to this time not being on the monkey, but being on the Moira. Sure. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Wanted to get in. Wanted to get somewhere with some degree of cover. It's pretty far for that DM. Again, you're not super interested in blocking their chip damage at super long ranges, because Reaper is who you're really trying to get with most of this DM. Okay, so this obviously isn't going to get much, but if we talk about self-destructs, because, hey, those are a good thing to talk about, ChoiHyoBin hasn't been struggling with them. In fact, ChoiHyoBin self-destructs have been very good for what this meta self-destructs demand. Look at this. Very little DM left. Very little health left. I suppose I should circle the part that's left, not the part that's missing. Very little DM left, very little health left. Yes, has micro missiles, but that's really a much lesser concern compared to these other two things. And we'll be in a place where we expect, hey, this will probably get some cooldowns out. We also have to do it because the objective pressure is just forcing us into it in terms of, hey, we lose the match if we don't just throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. Might have wanted some better. I suppose we could critique the aerial sniping there, which could have been better, but hey. It's not the first time that's happened, but you're under a lot of pressure. Okay. You try to reacquire decay, good. You less a fan of that DM. This fight is stabilized enough where you shouldn't be super panicky. I just need to try and DM everything to survive for an extra second mode. You see that that's decay. You know that if decay is coming back this way, it's likely as a wraith. Sure enough, it is as a wraith. You're DMing the back of a diva, which, you know, does go through her and DM the front of her, but, like, it's just not a high enough priority to DM that, especially when you're at half DM and decay is wraithing. And now you're tracking that, and honestly, since you used this DM, you would have been better off holding it on the diva as opposed to tracking decay with it, because decay's, I mean, he's just not going to give this to you, and you didn't want to continue to hold it. You wanted to use your minimum tick DM since you'd already committed to it, and keep it on the diva where it's getting some value. But so be it. Okay. We're running longer than I like these to be, but that's okay. We're gonna do these last minute or so regardless.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Okay. I don't know why we needed a booster to check this out, but okay. We could have just been up there earlier. Nothing matters. You looking antsy, ChoiHyoBin. You weren't nearly this shaky with your camera earlier. That's... eh... Where are you? Yeah. Okay. I don't think you DM'd that. I think if Decay is not here, yeah, I know you don't DM that. It's weird that Decay is not there. He's not like getting a ton by not being here because like what he's doing is he's sort of creating this situation where it's like, aha, maybe you waste DM on my group when I'm not there and then you don't get me. But like, okay, but our Reaper gets to do work while that happens, and your DM is gonna have to, your Diva is gonna have to spend DM on our Reaper. So like this time that you're missing that DM isn't getting used is still being evened. So like this isn't, unless Decay does something that surprises me here, this isn't amazing. But ChoiHyoBin could have punished this by having recognized that the Reaper wasn't here and said, I don't need to use, I don't really need anything out of this. If I see stickies, sure. If I see Moira Orb, maybe. But don't just need to hold the DM for this. Yeah, and then Decay shows up and we have no DM left. But okay. You have a tick left. You have a tick and it's available. You use it, and now you're going to swap to Diva because they're here. And you're just going to fight Fury, or are you going to try to get Assassin? Is there a call to all in on Assassin? No. You're U-turning. You have enough DM left. I know that Diva, I know that Winston's kind of weak, but you have enough DM back that you need to be back to paying attention to Decay. That's not okay. Like, that's not perfect. That's better. And now you need to get out again. Like, you need to U-turn out. Yeah. I don't really like that. Yeah. Okay. So we saw a couple things that, you know, if I was coaching ChoiHyoBin professionally, that we could go, hey, ChoiHyoBin, let's work on these things. And I'm sure ChoiHyoBin would go, okay, yep, I got it. I see these things. I want to work on them. One of those or two of those are DM related. And DM, like shot selection, is something that you sort of work with Diva players forever. You're never going to be, yes, my DM is perfect. I don't need to get any better on this. Like, you know, a main tank with engagement timing or an Ana with their shot selection. It might be like, oh, yep, we reviewed a great match. You still have half a dozen shots where you picked the wrong target. You know, things like that. Those are just things where you sort of go forever trying to get better at them. But what we would do here for ChoiHyoBin is we would say, okay, there's two things related to DM. One of these is we're a little heavy on our DM use in some situations when we shouldn't be. When we've gotten DM out, when DM has come out for something wrong or DM has come out for something and then that thing is gone, there's a little bit of holding down that button a little too long. Or it's came out for something that was appropriate, but it gets held down too long and it turns it into this took a third of your DM or 40% of your DM instead of 25%, and you didn't get a lot more out of using that extra 15% DM. You want to really get mastery of what that minimum hold is. And I'd be surprised if ChoiHyoBin hasn't had that before. That's probably a, hey, it's gone sloppy and slipped type thing. Or a, hey, I think some of this stuff that's coming out after that 25% is more important than it actually is. Like, it's not actually that important to eat. The other thing is going to be more tied to this meta specifically, which is, hey, we need to really, really understand that this Reaper, or duplicates of this Reaper, but mostly this Reaper, should be the not just the lion's share of our DM usage, but a significant lion's share of our DM's usage. Where it's like, hey, this is really what we're for. If we're sometimes using this first 25% for other things, for scouting, whatever, so be it. If we're getting Decay plus a bunch of other people when Decay is actually at an effective range, great. But we're in an effective range is relatively long now for Reaper, but still not sniper distance. Great, you know, that's something that we want to be aware of. But we're really looking at this, and what we're finding is ChoiHyoBin is a little too willing still to use DM for things that aren't this. For, oh, look, there's a Winston landing here. Oh, I think my Winston is low. But your Winston isn't really that low type thing. Like, yes, it's okay to DM to protect your teammates from things that aren't decay if it really comes to it. That is an acceptable thing to override and use it for, but we weren't seeing a lot of good reasons for that. We were like, oh, let me DM Violet out in the middle of the open nowhere, things like that. So really, I want a harder adherence to going, hey, the DM is not 100%, but pretty darn heavily for answering out the opposing Reaper there. And that is going to get better results for ChoiHyoBin and for the Shock here. So those two things are where I'd really go. We can get the most improvement, especially that second one in terms of how harsh we are on really this needs to be for decay, and we need to be using this when decay is a threat type stuff, not when he's wraithing away, not on the back of Fury, not to protect Violet when Violet's really not in any danger, but this really needs to be more for decay. So more there. That would be good. And then the third thing that we would get to is we would go, hey, there are situations, find a few more of these situations where you can go take nearby high ground. Not like super, super high ground. Not like, oh, I'm up here where I can't really help my team, but like mid-height high ground specifically, like this is pretty good in this meta. This would have been okay, like we talked about earlier. A little bit more like this when you actually have time to take it and you can actually protect your team from it. It still does do good stuff to you to have this angle. It lets you cast your DM at an angle, which gives it better surface area protection. It lets you apply a bit more headshot pressure, be a little more meaningful, and it's really still quite easy to get to opponents from here, to get to stuff. And, I did it there. I talked about it a fair bit there, but there were situations in other places where we could have, like over here, gotten a little more value out of it. And then we had a place on third I talked about up over here where it wouldn't have been a ton of value, but it's a little bit more value. And when we're talking about players of this level, we are looking at, hey, let's eke out a little more value here, a little more value here, a little more value here. So that's what I'd have. If you guys enjoy this type of content where it is a professional coach, going, hey, this is what I would do with this professional player. This is weaknesses of this professional player that they can go work on, that they can go improve on. And again, ChoiHyoBin is a very good player. I am not saying they're bad. I did not pick on them because, oh, they make lots of mistakes. They'll be easy to criticize. That's not what I did at all. I could do this for any player in OWL. This is just how this works, and this is what, any qualified coach, at least from a micro standpoint, should be able to do with their players to go, okay, let's level you up like this. Let's level you up like this. Let's level you up like this. And then they give them some time while they're working with other players, and then they circle back and check in. Okay, how did that go, and what are the next things that we can give you to work on by reviewing some of your gameplay? So again, if you guys enjoyed that type of content, please do like and subscribe, as it helps me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. If you are looking to see more of this type of content, you can also let me know in the comments what player name / hero combination you'd like me to do next. I can't guarantee that the most votes will be 100% who I go to next, but it'll definitely have some influence on how I shuffle around the order of how I go review things. And that's going to do it. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.